In the 1990s, Leica made a camera that did not look like the Leica people expected. It was bigger, bolder, and instantly divisive. Some photographers looked at the R8 and saw a mistake. Others saw one of the most serious SLRs Leica ever built. But that is exactly why this camera still matters. Because the Leica R8 was not designed to be safe. It was designed to be remembered. Welcome to AltBuzz Archives, where the cameras worth remembering finally get the story they deserve. If you are new here, hit subscribe right now. We do not rush these. We sit with them. We get them right. And if you have been watching for a while, you already know. This is the kind of story you stay for. 1996, Photokina, Cologne. Leica unveils a new SLR, and the room goes quiet, but not in the way a reveal is supposed to go quiet. Not reverent, not breathless, more like confused, maybe a little offended. The R3 through the R7 had a visual language Leica users had grown comfortable with. Familiar lines, familiar proportions. The kind of camera you trusted immediately because it looked like what a serious camera was supposed to look like. The R8 threw all of that out in one clean motion. It was angular in a way that felt aggressive. It had a pronounced front grip that jutted forward with confidence or arrogance, depending on who you asked. The shape was deliberately asymmetrical, wide and bulged on the right side, narrow and tapered on the left. And then there was that raised rear hump that earned the camera a nickname within weeks: the Hunchback of Solms. Leica loyalists genuinely wondered whether the company had lost the plot. But that reaction was not proof of a mistake. It was proof of a decision. A real one. The kind that only makes sense once you understand what Leica was actually trying to do. The earlier R bodies carried Minolta DNA. Those cameras were collaborative designs shaped by an external partnership, serious and capable, but not entirely Leica's own. Development of the R8 had actually begun in 1990, 6 years before the camera ever appeared in public. The R8 changed that completely. It was the first R-series body conceived, developed, and styled entirely by Leica. The designer chiefly responsible was Manfred Meinzer, working with a team that was largely new to Leica or drawn from outside the camera industry entirely. His stated philosophy was function through reduction. To answer the question of what that looked like, Leica went back to the M. The cleaner top plate, the manual exposure philosophy, controls that rewarded familiarity through repetition, all of it drawn from Leica's deepest roots. One of the key design goals was that photographers should be able to reach and operate every primary control without ever removing their eye from the viewfinder. This was not chasing trends. This was Leica asking a serious question about identity and committing to the answer without apology. Everything up to this point is about how the R8 looked, but the moment you actually pick it up, something happens that no photograph can prepare you for. Your whole hand wraps around it, palm against the front, fingers curling naturally over the top, thumbs settling at the rear without any searching. It feels, and this word comes up constantly from photographers who shot with it seriously, inevitable. The top controls sit exactly where your fingers expect. The viewfinder uses a fixed eye-level prism with interchangeable focusing screens, and inside the eyepiece, an LCD panel displays the automation mode, metering pattern, aperture, shutter speed, and frame count, all readable without looking away from the shot. The entire experience communicates one thing clearly. This camera was built to be used, not admired. Most of the people who dismissed the R8 had never actually shot with one. That is not a small detail. That is the entire story in a sentence. The gap between what it looked like and what it felt like was one of the widest in camera history. If you are new to the channel and you have made it this far, subscribe now. We do this properly, every single time. Before we get into the size debate, if you want to support AltBuzz Archives and get exclusive access to what we are building here, membership starts at just $7 a month. The Elite Partner tier sits at $20. Join button is right below the video. Link is in the description. Now, the size problem. Let us be honest. The R8 weighed 560 grams body only, noticeably heavier than anything in the R series that came before it. You could feel it the moment you picked it up. Photographers who had built systems around the lighter R bodies felt the change immediately. Some never forgave it. But Leica was not building the R8 for the photographer who wanted to travel light. They were building it for the photographer pairing a serious body with serious glass, heavy zooms, and longer focal lengths that needed genuine mass to balance properly. On a lighter body, those lenses felt front-heavy in a way that wore you down. On the R8, the balance finally felt right. The body also accepted an integrally styled motor drive and winder, designed specifically to match the R8's proportions rather than bolted on as an afterthought. Two photographers, same camera. One feels unnecessary weight. The other feels the first Leica SLR that finally handles properly at the long end. Same fact, completely different experience. That tension is one of the most honest things about the R8's entire story. The R8 was built around an electronically controlled vertical travel metal blade shutter. In automatic modes, it ran a continuous range from 32 seconds all the way to 1/8,000th of a second. In manual, speed stepped in half-stop increments from 16 seconds to 1/8,000th plus bulb. Flash sync sat at 1/250th. For 1996, those were numbers on a camera built to perform under real professional pressure. Metering gave photographers 4 distinct options: selective spot reading from a 7mm central area, a 6-element matrix pattern, center-weighted average, and a dedicated flash metering mode that could work with studio strobes through the PC terminal. That was not a camera handing photographers one automated solution and calling it progress. The R8 also introduced ROM contacts in the Leica R mount, electrical connections that allowed the body to communicate directly with compatible lenses, enabling more precise exposure data than previous R bodies could access. The build quality was exceptional in the way Leica equipment has always been exceptional, built to last and work, not to sit behind glass. It won multiple design awards in the years following its release. The assumption that the bold exterior came at the expense of substance was exactly wrong. The design was the controversy. The camera was the achievement. Subscribe if you have not already. This is exactly the kind of story we tell here, and there are more coming. The R8 was not beloved because it was easy. It was beloved stubbornly, protectively by photographers who stayed with it because it represented Leica doing something genuinely risky, not resting on M-system mythology, not delivering a careful incremental update to keep the existing base comfortable, taking a real position on what a Leica SLR should be, on Leica's own terms, without hedging. Japan Camera Hunter framed it well. This was Leica's attempt to prove it could still innovate, that the company was not simply a heritage brand coasting on reputation, while Japanese manufacturers defined what serious photography looked like. By 1996, autofocus had become standard across virtually every competing professional SLR. The R8 launched without it, deliberately. Leica chose to double down on manual focus and manual control at exactly the moment the industry was moving the opposite direction. Most camera companies stop taking that kind of risk the moment they become icons. The heritage becomes a constraint. Leica took the risk anyway, and the courage of that decision does not age. Here is what most people do not know, and it changes the entire story. In 2004, Leica released the Digital Modul R, an 11-megapixel digital back that could be fitted directly onto the R8 by the photographer in the field, without any factory conversion. When the Digital Modul R arrived, the R8 became one of the only 35mm SLRs in history to accept a user-installable digital back, not a factory conversion. A module photographers could fit themselves, turning a film body into a hybrid digital system without permanently losing what the camera had been. The R8 and the R9 remain to this day the only 35mm film cameras ever produced with this capability. While most film cameras became relics, the R8 became a platform. No other 35mm SLR was designed with that kind of forward compatibility. Not one. That single fact does not add a footnote to the story. It reframes the entire narrative. This is your last chance to subscribe before the outro. Hit the button. The Leica R8 was the camera that made Leica fans argue, then think, then remember. Some cameras become legends because everyone agreed on them. The R8 became unforgettable because people never completely did, because the argument never fully resolved. Because somewhere right now, there are photographers who still feel strongly about which side is right, and that feeling, after nearly 30 years, is its own kind of proof. Did the Leica R8 get more right than people gave it credit for, or was it the moment Leica pushed too far? Tell me below. I read every one. If AltBuzz Archives earned your time today, membership is open. $7 a month at the standard tier, $20 at the elite partner level. Everything goes back into the channel. Join button is below, link in the description, and if this one moved you, super thanks is right there under the video. Anything from $2 upward keeps this going. We will see you in the next one.